Hi, my name is Kelsey Kaufman, and the story I chose was Funny Bones, um, yeah, by Dungan Tanatua. Don't really know how to say his last name. Basically, the story is kind of like a cultural lesson and like a kind of a insight to how these skeletons got brought into the whole Day of the Dead tradition that the tradition celebration that um, Mexico celebrates and Mexicans. Um, so it's about a boy named Jose Guadalupe. His brother taught him how to read and write. His brother saw how gifted he was in drawing, so put him into art school. He ended up going into print, working at a print shop. Loved it. Discovered it was his passion. He at one point after work they weren't happy, with the government how it was running. So him and some other artists created some drawings for a local newspaper that were kind of like bashing them. They were hit because most people agreed, but the government people who stayed in office were not. So him and the owner of the store, Don Trinidad, moved to a nearby city. In that city, he met his wife, got married, had a son, and continued to work at his own print shop he opened, and then was also creating books and illustrations, illustrations for books and pamphlets. But in 1888, a flood destroyed part of the city, including his shop, so he moved to Mexico City. He worked as an illustrator and designer in several print shops. At one print shop, the owner, Don Antonio, they created what was called broad slides at one of the shops, and they were sold in the streets. They were just kind of like tells about a wide range of topics that also had pictures. He ended up working with this guy for more than 20 years. They were always busy during the Day of the Dead celebration. And then Don Antonio started publishing literary calderas, which are the skeletons, and Don Lupe began doing them too and became like a master at them. So basically, throughout his next many years, he was creating them, creating these skeletons. He one day created a skeleton wearing a flamboyant hat, and it was a printed poem about the type of woman who, puts on makeup and wears fancy clothes. In 1910, when the Mexican Revolution started, he decided to draw some of the leader of the revolution. If he agreed with what they had to say, he praised them. If he didn't, he ridiculed them. But they were still a huge hit. Not many people, once he died, not many people knew who he was, like that he was the artist of it, but a lot of people knew of his drawings. Many years after he passed, so many people, like artists and just so many people, wondered who had drawn such wonderful images. So today he's not called Don Lupe anymore. He's just Posada. And every year during Day of the Dead, he's always remembered and praised for those drawings. That's kind of how the skeletons got to be, kind of about it. I think this is a great story about the Day of the Dead and the skeletons and how it came to be. I always knew of what went on during the celebration, but I never really understood where the skeletons came from. I just kind of assumed they were always there, but it's cool to see kind of the background and history of how they became so popular. I think the purpose of sharing this book is to teach children about another culture and how part of the celebration every year came to be, how these skeletons that they've most likely seen, came to be into this celebration. But like the concept and life skills they would take from this is they would take a history lesson. They would learn about another culture, the Mexican celebration, Dia de Muertos. Can't say that really, so I just say Day of the Dead. The strategy activity I would do like an imagination one where um, take the skeletons and give them kind of like a real life profile. Like, what are their names? What do they like, dislike? Place they go for holidays. For older children, um, they can even make them write a diary entry as if they were the skeleton. So just kind of a fun interactive activity about these skeletons. So that is my reading log assignment for Funny Bones.